The Dorkening and all affiliated shows are not intended for anyone under the age of 18. The following may contain discussions or scenes that have adult situations, graphic violence, nudity, strong sexual content, and graphic language. This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. We have very active lifestyles. It's not all wandering the countryside aimlessly or scaring passing motorists. And we all love a good cup of joe. And there's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. Bold, robust, delicious. It's coffee that can wake the dead. With over a dozen different roasts and flavors, Deadly Grounds can satisfy the most finicky of coffee addicts. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
Persons under 18 will not be admitted.
Hey, what's happening, everybody?
Hey, Ben. That was great.
Y'all know what time it is. It's time for another kick-ass episode of Still Token With. Yeah, I don't know. I just added Jeff back because it booted him, and we all came on the screen at the same time. So, yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Real quick, though, before we get started with tonight's show, we want to send our condolences to our producer, Mr. Leo Pond, on the passing of his mom a couple days ago. So, you're in our thoughts and prayers, brother. If you need us, we're here. So, but look at that. We're all on the screen at the same time. So there's the voice in my head, Mr. Jeff down in the corner. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I thought it was one of your zombies for a second there.
I can hear you now.
Yeah.
The man up in the right corner.
I don't know what that video did, but you got
hold on.
Man.
Yeah, and my volume is really fucking high.
Oh.
So I'll figure it out. Go ahead, do your thing.
Yeah, I don't know. The video was running fine on this side and on the live. So
yeah. Well, that's all right.
It's
a new season.
Us old people and our technology. The man
Not
with the
our
flash
fault.
and all the flashiness up in the corner, our awesome new addition to the family, Mr. Jeffrey Mark. And
Happy Wednesday, everybody.
As Jeff figures out what he's doing down there, I'll quickly introduce our amazing guest. He's got a hell of a story, but we're not going to talk about that yet. We're going to let him talk about that. Dr. Hal Bradley.
Hey guys,
you know,
thanks for having me on your show, Ben. Really looking forward to this today.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
Thank
There's
you,
another one of our awesome co-hosts, Mr. Dustin Peterson, aka Jags. If he was watching the intro, he would have saw his funny fine face in the intro. So,
All right, at least I'm not getting screamed at anymore. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah, you good? You all right?
Okay. Yep.
You sure?
Well, it was weird. It might be the browser because I got this error message that flashed across the screen and said your browser does not support this.
No.
So
it just doesn't like you tonight.
Yeah, well,
what I'm going to say is it's Leo's mom messing with you because she was one of our biggest fans. Like when we started our show 6 seasons ago, she called her son and said, "Oh my God, those guys are hilarious. I love them." And she continued to watch us over every season. So now that she's passed, I think she just came back to mess with Jeff because Jeff likes to mess with everybody else.
Well, may she rest in
Well,
peace.
yeah, that's what I do.
Right. So, another kick-ass show. Yeah. Season 6, episode 2.
It's exciting.
And, we're all here.
Yeah, amazing, huh? Hell, I don't know about you guys. Well, I'm in my 70s now, so it's a miracle every day.
Right.
Dr. Bradley, there is so much to you. I think we're kind of fumfering trying to figure out where to start with you.
Right.
Why don't you go back to Mexico and just start it from there and let our friends who are watching and listening know who you are.
Okay, thank you very much, Jeffrey. And again, gentlemen, thank you so much for having me on your show. This is going to be a real pleasure. And I loved your intro. That was absolutely amazing. And I agree. Let's take it back to 1969. In 69, my brother had been wounded in action in Quezon Valley, and he was in the United States Marine Corps. He was medevac stateside and was at Bremerton Naval Hospital. And so we went to the hospital to see him. And I can remember the anger that was within me because I'm on this ward looking at my brother who had just been shot in combat. And I see a whole ward of all these guys that are like 19, 20, 21 years of age. And my heart really went out to them, and it impacted me real heavily. And at that time, I was 16 years old and smoking cigarettes and smoking weed and dropping acid and living the dream and all that stuff. Hell, it's the 60s, guys.
Yeah.
So anyway, I left that place and was at school, and I got caught smoking a cigarette on campus. And back in the 60s, when you got caught doing something like that, they expelled you for a semester. It wasn't something like a 2-week thing or something, which they do, I believe, nowadays. So anyway, my mother said, well, I'm not going to have some kid wandering the streets, for 6 months. She was working full time, had a kid in the hospital, shot in Vietnam, 2 other younger kids, and just she worked full time, so she couldn't keep an eye on me. And by then, hell, I'm an acid head, I'm a pothead, I'm all kinds of, doing crazy stuff. And she had a friend that owned a mining camp named Anaconda de Mexico. It was in the state of Durango on the Durango-Zacatecas border. And she said, I'd like to send Hal down there and kind of get him off the streets and let him experience this new culture. And I'm thinking, wow, what an adventure. This is really exciting. So a couple of weeks later, he loaded me up, flew me into Mazatlan. Well, we were picked up there by some mine workers and driven up into the state of Durango. The following morning, we crested into the valley where the mining camp was at. And it was sparse terrain. It was totally isolated. The village of Hualta only had 100 people that lived in the village and only one power pole running through the whole village. So that was my first exposure to an absolute impoverished community. So I'm up there. Ted stayed about a week to make sure I was settled in, and then he took off. And here I am on my own, blonde hair, blue-eyed, 16-year-old kid that's never even heard Spanish spoken, and not a single person in the village spoke English. But what he did arrange is he had a bodyguard to protect me while I was in country, a guy named Mimo. And Mimo was connected. And I know that the man that took me down there was affiliated with the opium growing operations and all of that I became exposed to early on. So anyway, time went on, and I had my own burro instead of riding my Schwinn bicycle with the banana seat and the handlebars like everybody did back. Yeah, you remember those, huh? Yeah. So anyway, now I've got a burro. and I'm up in these mountains, and I have this burro that has every trail memorized. And so I'd get up some days and I'd jump on the back of my burro and I'd be taking off up into the foothills, and I would come across these fields that had absolutely beautiful fields of flowers. And I didn't know they were poppies growing opium. I just saw fields of flowers, and in my innocence, I started talking to the people that were out there cutting sap out of the bulbs and harvesting and stuff. And I remember also we had the Chowari Indians who lived up in the mountains, and they were the marijuana growers. And back in 1969, marijuana was like selling fentanyl is today. It was just so horribly
right.
So I got invited into the village, and I would sit around at night, and they would take corn husks and they would roll these big old bombers. It's kind of like the old Cheech and Chong bamboo paper we got off the albums back in the day, where you could put a whole ounce in the damn thing. And then they would just smoke this and pass it around, and we'd all get higher in a kite. And I'm looking at them, and they look like they were back 1,000 years in time. And I'm wondering, God, I hope they don't eat me or something, because they look so primitive. I'm a kid out of Seattle, Washington, for God's sakes. But anyway, as the story goes, I witnessed my first execution about 2 months in country. We were in the cafeteria, and I was sitting with Memo, and everybody feared Memo. He carried a machete on a back strap on his back that he could pull out real easy. He had a side piece on him, and he was definitely knew that if something were to happen to me down there, that he wouldn't come out of it alive. So he was very ruthless. We're in there, and Memo and I are having breakfast with some of the other miners, and this guy walks into the table next to mine, pulls a gun out and blows this guy's brains out. I mean, not 5 feet away from me. And I'm sitting there and I'm just thinking, Jesus Christ, what the hell am I in here? I'm just a young kid. The worst I've ever seen is a fist fight at a keg party. And Memo escorted the guy out of there and came back and immediately grabbed me. He says, listen, whatever you see down here, you never talk about. And up until 5 years ago, when I started writing novels, I never, ever did talk about it. So I had about a year there of extensive training in a very unique culture, a culture of narcotics, massive narcotics production and growth. And I took that knowledge back to the United States, and I can remember telling me in the village, he said, "Aquí en su corazón vive la sangre de la ciudad." In your heart now pumps the blood of this village. So someday return to us, come and see us. So when I got back stateside, I was still disturbed about my brother having been wounded in action. So I went and got a GED, joined the United States Army 2 weeks after I was 17. I went basic, AIT, airborne school. Hell, I had wings on my chest, paratrooper wings, when I was still 17, and headed overseas to Germany to do my tour. Once I got released from the Army, I was using the GI Bill in Sacramento at the Sacramento City College, going to school. And winter break came. This is the winter of 74, 75. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to go down to Walterio. I'm going to go visit my paisan, my family, my friends, and kind of, see what's up. Well, I got down there and I spent my 2-week holiday there. And during that time, they had convinced me to come back with a Ford LTD. And they said, well, we want you to take marijuana into the United States. And I'm thinking, God, that's going to be a cool adventure. Why not? Nothing but pot. And so I went back down on the next break, and they took my car, put it in a chop shop, cut all these compartments into it, packed that car with 80 kilos of marijuana, and I was off to the races. Now, I'm barely 20 years old. And I remember going up Highway 15 to Highway 2, where I entered in Nogales, and they had sprayed deodorant on my face. They taught me to wear sunglasses that weren't too dark, but not too light. Drive a car that's nice, but not too new, not too old. And they said, whatever you do, when the inspector comes up to your window, look him dead in the eye, stay calm. You're just down there for the day in Nogales picking up souvenirs or whatever, and they'll get you on through. Well, after 5 years of doing that and more than 70 border crossings, I never got caught once. But in 79, the ball game changed. By then, I'd been picking up marijuana. I'm getting ahead of myself here. By then, I had 2 other friends recruited out of City College. So I was running 3 cars down there now. And we were buying up all the pot in the Chowari Indian village, and we needed more pot. So what we did was Memo had a friend who was over in Jalisco, in the state of Jalisco in Guadalajara. So we head over there, and just outside of Guadalajara, there was a ranch compound where we went. And I met this guy named Rafael Carla Quintero. I'm sure you've probably heard that name. And then I met this other guy named El Chapo, and that's a picture that I think I sent you guys. So 42 years ago, I met El Chapo, and he was just a little pot guy at the time. We all were. And Rafa was the one that instituted the growing of that massive marijuana field that was so big you could see it from space, the one that DEA agent Kiki Camarena infiltrated and took out.